The night was unusually silent, save for the occasional rustle of leaves outside Emily's window. She had always been a brave soul, never one to shy away from a challenge. So, when the mysterious text message pinged on her phone, reading only if you dare, press play. This video will change everything. She laughed it off. An urban legend about a cursed video circulating on the dark web? Ridiculous. Without hesitation, she pressed play. At first, the screen showed nothing but static. Then, the faint outline of a dark figure began to take form. It was hard to tell if it was a person or something more sinister. The figure stood still in what appeared to be a long, narrow hallway, its eyes two gleaming orbs piercing through the screen. Emily felt a strange chill, but she shook it off. As the video continued, the figure took a step closer. And then another. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the static, barely audible but unmistakably cold and closer than you think. Emily froze. The figure on the screen was no longer in the hallway. It was standing in front of her own house. The camera zoomed in, capturing the very details of her front porch, the potted plants, the worn-out doormat, even the flickering light she always forgot to change. She jumped up, rushing to the window, her heart pounding in her chest. The street outside was empty, as silent and still as ever. It had to be a prank, she told herself. Clever trick, but nothing more. But when she returned to her phone, the video had changed again. This time, the figure was inside her home. Her breath caught in her throat as she watched the shadowy form glide down her hallway, inching closer to her room. The video was no longer a recording, it was a live feed. The figure stopped in front of her door, hand reaching for the knob. The screen went black. A faint whisper echoed through the silence, "I'm here." Emily didn't dare to turn around, but she heard the door creak open behind her. And then the lights went out. The police arrived at Emily's house the next day, alerted by her concerned neighbors who hadn't seen her leave in over 24 hours. Inside, they found nothing out of place, signs of a struggle, no forced entry. Her bed was unmade, the front door slightly ajar, but Emily herself was nowhere to be found. Her phone, lying in the center of the living room, still displayed the video, frozen on the last frame, a blank, black screen. The lead investigator, Officer Miller, picked up the device, frowning at the eerie silence surrounding it. As they scoured the house, something strange started happening. Every electronic in the house began to glitch. Lights flickered, the television buzzed with static, and Miller's police radio cut in and out with bursts of unintelligible whispers. It was when Miller tried to leave that things turned darker. As soon as he stepped toward the front door, a sharp, high-pitched tone blared from his radio, making him wince. His instincts kicked in, but as he reached for his weapon, the lights in the entire house went out. In the suffocating darkness, he heard it a whisper. "I'm closer than you think." His hand trembled as he fumbled for his flashlight, but before he could click it on, something brushed against his shoulder. Cold, icy, a presence that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. He spun around, the beam of his light slicing through the darkness, only to reveal empty space. The room was still, the air thick with something wrong. And then, from the far end of the hallway, he saw movement. A figure, barely visible in the faint glow of the flashlight, stood motionless. It was the same figure from Emily's video. The police officers outside heard Miller scream. When they burst through the door moments later, all they found was Miller's flashlight, flickering on the ground. His radio continued to emit strange, garbled voices. But just like Emily, Officer Miller had vanished without a trace. The case made headlines across the town. Emily was missing, and now so was a seasoned officer. Rumors spread like wildfire. Stories of cursed videos, dark web mysteries, and shadows that moved on their own crept into the local chatter. But as quickly as it started, the incident faded into the background. The authorities were baffled, and people moved on, too afraid to dig deeper. Except for one person, Emily's best friend, Sarah. Sarah refused to accept the mystery as unsolvable. She had always known Emily to be brave, maybe too brave for her own good. And though everyone else wrote off the video as a hoax or urban legend, Sarah felt something gnawing at her, something darker than just a missing persons case. Late one night, unable to sleep, she found herself staring at Emily's old phone, now in her possession. The cursed video was still there. She knew what had happened to Emily and Officer Miller, but a part of her couldn't let it go. What if there was a way to reverse it, to understand it? Her fingers hovered over the play button as the clock struck midnight. Sarah made her choice. She pressed play. Static. Darkness. The same long hallway. The same shadowy figure. It moved closer, step by step, just as it had in Emily's video. The voice crackled through the static once more, but this time it wasn't cold. It wasn't distant. It was Emily's voice. Don't let it see you. Don't look away. Suddenly, the figure on the screen stopped, as if hearing her. Sarah's blood ran cold as the shadow turned its head sharply, staring directly through the camera at her. Its gleaming eyes locked onto hers, and before she could react, the lights in her apartment flickered off. In the suffocating blackness, Sarah heard a faint sound, a door creaking open, and then a whisper, "I'm closer than you think." This time it wasn't from the video. It was coming from right behind her.